In Mexico, regional elections to renew the governorships of the states of Mexico and Coahuila are underway. In Austria, OPEC Plus members agreed to cut crude oil production this year and the next to protect prices. And in India, authorities work to identify the victims of the worst train accident in the Asian country in this century. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. More than 15 million Mexican voters cast their ballots on Sunday to renew the governorships of the states of Mexico and Coahuila. According to the National Electoral Institute, the two states opened their polling stations at 8 o'clock in the morning to receive voters and are expected to close at 6 o'clock in the afternoon local time to count the votes. According to the electoral entity, Mexicans living abroad will have two ways of voting, online or in person, at the Mexican consulates in the cities of Chicago, Dallas, and Los Angeles, while in Canada they will be able to vote in Montreal. These elections are key for the country's political organizations in view of the 2024 elections, in which President and the two chambers of the Federal Congress will be renewed. In Cuba, the Ministry of Public Health reported that 45 people remain injured after a traffic accident occurred on the Havana-Malena highway, which caused the death of 4 people. The accident occurred on Saturday in the municipality of Arroyo Naranjo when the vehicle belonging to the National Bus Company overturned south of Havana. Of the injured, 5 are in serious conditions and 40 are in care. In all cases, the patients are being attended by multidisciplinary teams and their relatives are being kept informed. In addition, the authorities informed that the resources for medical care in each of the institutions are guaranteed. In the United States, a major fire broke out on Saturday at an oil tank complex in southwestern Louisiana. Local authorities have issued evacuation orders and shelters for residents and businesses near the facility. No information about possible casualties has been provided at this time. Mandatory evacuations were in effect for those as far as 1.5 miles from the tank farm. It is unclear what caused the fire at the Calcasieu OPEC refinery. However, the company attributed it to a lightning strike. And according to a clinical study presented on Sunday in the U.S., a pill proved effective in halving the risk of death from some types of lung cancer when taken daily after the tumor is removed. The research was unveiled in Chicago at the largest annual conference of cancer specialists organized by the American Society of Clinical Oncology. Lung cancer is the most lethal one, with approximately 1.8 million deaths each year worldwide. AstraZeneca's osimertinib, the treatment, presented on Sunday and marketed under the name Tagrisso, is aimed at those suffering from so-called non-small cell cancer and who have a particular type of mutation. According to Yale's Dr. Roy Herbst, who presented the study in Chicago, the data on the drug are impressive since it helps prevent the disease from spreading to the brain, liver, and bones. In Colombia, a new massacre was reported in a ranch where 3 people were killed, including a minor. The incident took place in the village of Agua Bonita early Sunday morning in the rural area of San Jose del Guaviare. According to preliminary information provided by the National Police, 2 assassins broke into the establishment and shot repeatedly at the owner's wife and her 15-year-old stepson. So far, the National Police have not communicated the motives of the crime, but recent figures indicate that this would be the 41st massacre so far this year. In Argentina, June 3rd marked the 8th anniversary of the first Ni Una Menos March, the feminist movement that was born in 2015 after the femicide of Chiara Páez, a 14-year-old teenager in the province of Santa Fe. Feminist collectives from all Argentine provinces are mobilizing during the weekend to commemorate the 8th years of the Ni Una Menos March, with demands for the femicides that remain unpunished in different districts and to speak out against gender violence. The Observatory of Gender Violence, Ahora que sí nos ven, assures that since the appearance of the movement Ni Una Menos, an average of 1 femicide took place every 31 hours in all Argentina, according to a report prepared by the feminist organization. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. All the stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the south. On Saturday hours after being sworn in for his third term in office, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan presented his new cabinet. The presentation of the new cabinet, which is comprised of 18 members, took place after a day full of ceremonies and activities in the framework of his inauguration. First, the swearing-in ceremony was carried out at the Grand National Assembly in Ankara, where the Nationalist Movement Party leader Devlet Bahçeli presented Erdogan with his official oath of office, an event that was attended by heads of states, ministers, and other representatives from more than 70 countries. Later, Erdogan also went to the presidential complex in Ankara, where he gave his speech. There he stressed that his government will continue to produce works and services for Turkey. Erdogan indicated that his administration will embrace all 85 million citizens, regardless of their political views, origin, creeds, or religion. In Austria, OPEC Plus members reached an agreement to limit crude oil production during this year and the next to protect prices. Within the framework of a meeting in Vienna with a view to finding solutions to the fall in oil prices, Russia announced that it will extend its voluntary cut in crude oil production by 500,000 barrels per day during all of 2024. Saudi Arabia, on the other hand, will maintain oil production at 10,478 million barrels per day. At a meeting of partner countries in the organization, it was decided to adjust the general level of oil production for 2024 to 40.46 million barrels per day. This decision was taken to achieve and maintain oil market stability, as well as to generate long-term predictability.
The countries that had agreed to do the voluntary cuts have extended that voluntary cuts to end of 24, and I would have to call it the Saudi lollipop, which is 1 million barrel of reduction for the start that starts at the 1st of July, and that million is also extendable.
On Sunday, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg urged Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan to lift his veto on Sweden's candidacy, saying that Stockholm has complied with Ankara's demands. Turkey has been blocking Sweden's entry into the Atlantic Alliance for 13 months, considering too lenient towards the Kurdish militants on its territory whom Ankara sees as terrorists. After meeting with the Turkish leader who began a third presidential term on Saturday, Stoltenberg told reporters that Sweden has taken action towards Turkey's concerns. The latter and Hungary are the only two of the 31 NATO member countries that have not yet ratified Sweden's membership in the alliance. In Poland, 500,000 demonstrators thronged the streets of central Warsaw on Sunday, according to Polish opposition organizers, claiming one of the largest anti-government demonstrations in the last 30 years. People came from all over the country after former Prime Minister Donald Tusk, head of the centrist opposition Civic Platform Party, called for the protest against the high cost of living, the scam and lies, and for democracy, free elections, and the EU. Leaders of most opposition parties encouraged their supporters to join the march against the Nationalist Law and Justice Party, led by Jarosław Kaczyński, in power for almost 8 years. There were also small rallies in other cities and towns in Poland. Most polls suggest that the PIS party will win the upcoming elections with around 30% of the vote, but without winning a majority. In Italy, airport workers go on strike for 24 hours to demand workers' rights. Employees of the air transport sector affiliated to the Italian Labour Confederation, Italian Labour Union, and other unions are participating in the strike. The strike is in protest against the contract renewal for ground staff at Italian airports. They are also demanding the return of purchasing power to the salary and dignity of the thousands of airport workers who face their daily task with professionalism and seriousness in absolutely inadequate conditions, something that the sector describes as unacceptable. Authorities in the Russian province of Belgorod reported a new break-in of a Ukrainian sabotage group. The governor of the region, Vyacheslav Gladkov, announced that the Russian military is holding clashes on Sunday against a Ukrainian incursion in the locality of Novaya Tovalsnanka. Local authorities denounced attacks by Ukrainian groups, which they describe as fascist, against unarmed civilians in the region. Glakov also announced that the Ukrainian military requested a meeting at a checkpoint in the town of Shevekino between 5 and 6 p.m. local time to facilitate the handover of 2 Russian prisoners of war. Russian defense spokesman Igor Konashenkov confirmed that early Sunday morning a high-precision weapons attack was carried out against military targets on Ukrainian airfields. According to the report, the attack neutralized Ukrainian command posts, radar and aviation equipment, as well as weapons and ammunition storage facilities. Russian military reported that some 20 Ukrainian drones and remote control vehicle unit assembling facilities were hit during the operation. As a result of the attack by Russian forces, at least 130 Ukrainian fighters were confirmed dead in Kharkov and Donetsk areas, including 4 groups of Ukrainian attackers. The Russian government warned about a possible escalation of tensions if Ukraine receives missiles with longer range. In statements to the press, the spokesman of the Russian presidency, Dmitry Peskov, stated that the level of tactical and technical characteristics of the weapons sent to Ukraine is constantly increasing. The Russian official warned that France and Germany are already talking about the supply of missiles with a range of 500 kilometers and more. Peskov stressed that the situation forces Russia to be more focused, stronger, and more mobilized, which he said could unleash a new spiral of tension. teleSUR English continues to grow. You can now tune in from 33 different African countries through StarSat, dial 461 and enjoy Latin American alternative broadcasts. One final short break, we'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back from the south. In India on Sunday, authorities are working to identify the victims of the worst train accident in the Asian country in this century. In a last report, the death toll is at least 288, while the number of injured has risen to more than 1,000. So far, 88 bodies have been identified, while the Southeastern Division of Indian Railroads has been running special trains for families to reach Balasore in the eastern state of Odisha, site of the accident, and where bodies are being held in hospitals and even in school. Following rescue works at the accident site, the authorities also made use of internet to publish photographs of some unidentified deceased, many of them taken at the accident scene, as well as lists of injured under treatment. India's Railroad Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw said on Sunday that the triple train crash was caused by a change in the electronic interlocking, that is, a signaling fault. The official added that those responsible have already been pinpointed as part of the investigation. Meanwhile, at the accident site, workers removed the remains of the crash involving 2 passenger trains and 1 of goods. On Sunday, China's defense minister Li Shangfu stated the reasons why a Chinese warship got in the way of a U.S. destroyer and a Canadian frigate transiting the Taiwan Strait. He did so during his speech at the Singapore Security Forum.
We must fully comply with the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. This is what we must adhere to. There will be no problems with freedom of navigation and innocent passage. The key is to prevent attempts to exercise navigational hegemony in the name of freedom of navigation.
The same way, the Chinese minister pointed out that the U.S. ships had no business being in Chinese territorial waters and urged the nations responsible for the incursion to mind their own business.
To really avoid these incidents, in addition to making rules that express what to do as a last resort, the best way is that warships and fighter planes of third countries do not perform actions of approach to the areas bordering the territorial sea and airspace of a nation. What is the point of going there? What does it have to do directly with your interests? To put it our way, mind your own business and take good care of your own people.
The statements of China's Defense Minister Li Shangfeng come after a Chinese vessel came close to colliding with a U.S. destroyer in the Taiwan Strait. The incident reportedly occurred during a joint Canada-U.S. mission in the Taiwan Strait when a People's Liberation Army Navy ship picked up considerable speed and cut across the bow of the U.S. destroyer. The U.S. crew responded by asking the Chinese to move away from the ship, but the U.S. ship had to change course and slow down to avoid a collision. The Asian giant ship simply radioed the Canadian and the U.S. vessels that they were entering Chinese territory. On Sunday, Syria's Foreign Minister Faisal Mikdad discussed with his Iraqi counterpart Fuad Hussein in Baghdad means of bolstering relations between the two countries and operate them in the interests of the two brotherly nations. During a press conference following their meeting, Mikdad thanked Iraq for the assistance provided to Syria following the catastrophe of the earthquake. The foreign minister called for consolidating efforts to overcome impacts of the Western coercive economic measures aimed at starving people, calling these measures immoral. For his part, the Iraqi foreign minister said they addressed joint work to combat the drug trade. The top official added that the humanitarian situation in Syria is difficult and needs action at the regional and international level to facilitate the entry of humanitarian aid. Several hundred militants of the Moroccan left-wing trade union movement announced on Sunday in Casablanca the high cost of living and the inaction of the government, despite the ban on demonstrations. Coming from all over the country, the trade unionists of the Leftist Democratic Confederation of Labor, CDT, gathered in the historic center of the economic capital and expressed their dissatisfaction with rising prices and attacks on purchasing power. Tariq Alawi El-Husseini, member of the union's National Council, said initially the CDT wanted to organize a national march in Casablanca, but the local authorities prohibited the demonstration. The march took place without major incident. Morocco is facing a rise in prices, especially of food products, which affects the most modest households. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.